This conference will now be recorded.
So till now we have discussed about like my collections, variables, how to create, how to write the code in developer console, correct? So SQL, SSL, and DML operations.
Hi,
You
Yeah.
see?
Devasis. Good afternoon.
Yeah. Hi, SS. Okay. Before we start any topic, so let me know if you have any question for me.
No, as of now.
Perfect. Okay. Now you see we have discussed about two different type of DML operations like insert, the update, offset, or merge, or SQL, everything, and SQL for loop. So now what I'm going to do here. So we understood, okay, when I want to write a piece of code, we go into this developer console and we write the code. See here, developer console, and here we write some piece of code, anonymous code, which I didn't save anywhere, but we execute it. Okay. You see, I just went like this developer debug upon execute anonymous window. We write some that collection examples or some kind of for loop. We execute it and we see the output. And I am not saving that code anywhere. So this is like, see, this is one place where I can write the code. When I'm saying writing of the codes, what is that? So now if you see, okay, the way we can invoke the Apex, okay. So Apex nothing but the piece of code what we have written in developer console, okay. Now there is one first way we have learned from developer console as a anonymous window, okay. We have written some piece of code and we execute it. So that anonymous code will be executed at that moment and we didn't save anywhere. So whenever this real-time transaction happens, that code is not going to execute anywhere because that data is not going to save on my Apex metadata server. Okay, if you remember my past session, there I have explained how my Apex code is being saved in the server. Okay, and when the end user trying to access that, that's not going to be invoked. So in that case, let me show you that also. If you remember, like if you remember this diagram, when we write some code, that code being saved in my server as a Apex class metadata server after compilation. And when some end user access it, we access from there. But anonymous codes are not being saved here, not being saved anywhere. We don't have any name to that. So we say that is anonymous code. So what are the ways we can invoke the Apex? Okay, first we should know that. So one we saw anonymous window. Okay. Same way we have something called, let's see, I want to execute some piece of code when I'm inserting an account or when I'm updating a account. Okay, I want to execute something. So at that moment, nothing but there is some concept we have called as trigger. So how to execute that? Okay, how to invoke the Apex during that trigger, or we may write a page or we can design a page from the page, the logic we can write in Apex. So how my Apex can be called in a page, or we can write one email service. Okay, nothing but we'll write one piece of code. When any email comes to one specific address, we'll execute this card, this class. So how we can write Apex class so that my email service can use it. Okay, same way I have some asynchronous mode of Apex. Okay, how to execute that also we'll discuss. Okay, all this we are going to discuss in the future session. Okay, and whenever we are integrating two different systems, so that time also I may need Apex. So we understood what is anonymous window and how I am executing it. Nothing but we go to developer console. From developer console, you just go to debug anonymous window, write a piece of code, execute it. I'm not going to save anywhere, just execute that piece of code. But I want to write a code which I'll save it. Nothing but I can create a class with a specific name, I can save in my system, and I can use it. So that class I can invoke in my Apex trigger. So first, we should know what is this trigger and what is the purpose of trigger and how I can write trigger on my system. Okay, and this trigger is a very important topic for us. Okay, so let me explain you one basic scenario. Let me close this. Okay, so when I say trigger, what is this? Before to understand that, I should understand the structure of transaction when I'm doing the execution flow from my record to my database. I'm not talking completely the execution flow, the way my record being flowed from UI to database. Okay. So see, I have a database here. Let's consider this is my database. Okay. Here I may have many objects. Okay. Let's employee, account, opportunity, or maybe position, candidate, anything. So same way, I have one page. Okay, here I have, let's consider my account name, account type, or maybe candidate name, candidate email, candidate mobile number, candidate ssn, candidate experience, like this many fields we have. And with that I have one button called save. Okay, so let's see, this is one button which we call as save. Okay, let me change the colors. Okay, save. Okay, so here I have, let's see, consider this is a field which we call first name, last name, like this many fields we have. Okay, so now the moment I save this record, what happened? The moment you fill all this form and you are trying to click on the button save, the moment you are trying to click on the button save, what exactly going to happen? The data from this page will take to my database. Let's see, I'm targeting to this object to create a new record. If I'm creating newly, or if I want to update, then go and find out, modify the existing record. So the when this flow is happening, I want to execute some piece of code. Once I click this button, I want to execute some piece of code. So how I can do it? So nothing but if you go here, let's, the moment you try to create a candidate or create an account, I'll go to normal example for accounts. Let I go to this other application. I access the account tab. From here, I'm opening this account. Okay, let's see. I'm just going to update this account. I click edit, then I open the page in the edit mode. I just modified. Let's see, account site I modified. Okay, something name I gave. Okay, and I just click save. The moment I'm clicking save, nothing but the moment I click this button, there is a DML operation going to happen on my database. What is the DML operation? Right now I'm going to update some information for this account record in my object. Okay, so now when this DML is happening, in between these operations, when click on this save button and saving database, committing the data to database, I want to execute some piece of Apex code. Let's see, I want to execute, I wrote some line of Apex code here. I want to execute this. Okay, so how I can execute this code? How I want to execute a specific logic? Nothing but if I say, the moment you create a new account, let's go to here account. Okay, the moment you create a new account, let's see, I just gave name as new account. Okay, and I just gave some website. Okay, I just gave public account or something I gave, and I gave some address and some information here, and I click the save. The moment I'm going to do this, let's consider I want to create one contact by default for this account. I want to create one admin contact for this, but right now if I save it, it is just a account, nothing happening. See, if it's just account, it's nothing happening, no contact, nothing. But I want, when you create one account, automatically one contact record will create. So to create a contact, what we do? We know we can create contact con equal to new contact. Something like this we write. If you remember, as in previous sessions, to insert any record, we do like this, correct? For contact, we do that instantiation of this contact object. Then we set the field name for that. Okay. Then in the end, we do insert. So this piece of code, I want to fire whenever there is one account being saved in my database. Correct? So now I write this piece of code. Okay, so this code, how I'll execute? Okay, to execute that piece of code, we have some concept we call a trigger. So we are going to discuss about trigger. Okay, the uses of it, and what are the best practices for it, and what are the real-time implementation of it. All things we'll do. So first thing, remember, Apex we can invoke from trigger. So what is this trigger? Like I explained how this anonymous window getting executed and how I can write the Apex class to execute the Apex to execute the inside the trigger. Okay, so Apex can invoke from a trigger. So it is nothing but it is allowing us to execute our own logic. Okay, whenever there is a DML operation in object. Okay, nothing but we can execute any logic during DML operations. Okay, of that object. So see, if I want to execute some specific logic on account save or account update, then I will write a piece of logic which will execute only for the account whenever executing. Or when I want for a contact or maybe opportunity creation, I want to execute some logic, I will write a piece of logic which will be invoked during opportunity creation. Okay. How we do that? So if you see, so simply I can say this is nothing but I'm writing a piece of code. So I'm saying trigger is nothing but some piece of Apex code, okay, which will execute whenever there is a DML operations happening, okay. DML operation nothing but I can say insert, then like update, delete, anything, okay. So if I tell technical definition, a trigger is Apex code that executes before or after DML operations. So what type of operations we have DMLs? We know we have insert, we know we have update, we know we have delete, okay. And these are the basic operations. If you remember, I have explained something called offset, okay. During offset also, my trigger will execute. Also, same way, we have something called merge, okay. We have something called on delete. If I have deleted something, and when I roll back that time also my trigger will execute. So we know this insert, update, delete. But when it's offset, nothing but this is consists of two operations, which is insert and update. So both the operations. Let me write it in normal language, insert and update. So when you fire this offset in any database operations, so it will check insert and update both. So both the logic will fire, both the logic or both the events insert and update will fire in the system, so that my trigger will execute in the both the cases. Same way, most nothing but if you remember, I said delete and update. So in both these operations will fire. I'll explain the syntactically what it is, then you can get a good idea. On delete nothing but I'm just on deleting the record from my recycle bin. Nothing but I'm doing rollback for that record. So simply a trigger nothing but a piece of Apex code which will execute on different DML operations. That much only. Okay. So when I'm saying DML operations happening, remember one point here. So for our better understanding, I'm just breaking this line in two parts. Let me make a bigger one. Let me change some color. See, somewhere in between, I just made a line here, okay, just a box. So now, from this line, this is one side and this is one side. I'm just making this to make you understand, okay. So I am saying this is nothing but after this point, and this side I'm saying after of this point, and I'm saying this one as before of this point. Okay, so whenever I am doing a DML operations, we divide in two parts. Okay, one part is before, one part is after. So whenever there is a DML operations, the operations part in two part. Okay, so in the complete journey from user interface to my database, there is a place where we save the record, but we don't commit the record to database. Okay, save means the record is saved and it can be updated in database. Okay, like see, whenever I'm going to click on the save, let's go here. I Let me explain you one scenario. I just edit it and I'm just going to click the save. Okay, while I'm saving, I initiate my operations. Okay, but before inserting the record or before creating the record in my database, I will check the validation rules. Okay, all the records are as per my business requirement or not. What are the validation rules we have written? Okay, so before that we need to check if all these checks are okay, then that means my record can be saved. And that point we say it is a point I made as save. So before save and after save. Okay, then I go to database and I can commit that record to my database. So see the complete journey I break into part. One I call as save. Okay, then before save and after save. Everything done, then I'll commit the record. So now the trigger when you are writing, so it is nothing but whenever any DML operation fire, I will execute a piece of Apex code. So trigger nothing but a piece of Apex code, okay, that executes for any of the events. And that even when I'm saying DML operations, okay, and that operations nothing but insert, update, delete, merge, offset, and undelete. And these operations again I'm breaking in two parts. It may be before insert or maybe after insert, maybe before update or maybe after update. We'll see how we can break it. So if you run a trigger, nothing but if you save a account, we execute a trigger. Okay, if you're creating a new account, that means you are inserting a account. So my logic I can execute on before or on after. I will explain in what point what we need. Till now, any confusion?
No.
Perfect. So now think example, whenever you are creating an account, I want that account record when you are saving it, will create a contact, like the example what I said. So in the end, once you create account, then go and create a new contact record. This is just consider this is a contact record, contact object. This is a account object. Okay. So when you create a new account, we will create a contact record. So I don't know where to write this piece of logic. Okay. What I did, I just went, wrote some piece of code. Okay. Some piece of code I wrote, which code helps me to create an account. Now, this piece of code, should I write in before part or should I write in after part? Okay. So this piece of code, should I write in before part or should I write in after part? Okay. If you see that, let's consider a scenario. I just go and create an account. So my trigger execution started from here. I'm going here. Okay. So now first scenario we'll see if I write this piece of code in before part. So now I execute this logic. Okay. Then I have created a contact here. Now I went after some time we check some validation rule. Okay. Then we saw this rule. Based on this rule, this account does not have proper data, so I am not allowing you to save this record. It's wrong. This account cannot be saved. So at that moment, the account creation is rolled back. See, then I create contact, I roll back, or maybe my contact will be created without the account. So if this kind of scenario comes, it's not good to write here. Let's see. I come to this part too, in like nothing but my after event. So I create a account. I went. I check validation rule, everything, all pass. So my account is able to save in system. There is no errors. So I saved. After you save the record which are moving, you cannot modify it. It is checked and it's saved, so it can be commit. So now I create a contact. So I know after this point my record is going to be commit to database. It's already saved but not committed. Now I'm going to commit to database. So in that case, I came here, I create a contact and I do something. So in that part, what we do here, this kind of thing when you see nothing but we write in after event. Okay, any confusion?
No.
Perfect. So then what kind of logic we will write in before event? Let's see. I have some, see, all kind of validation rules I cannot write in my configuration, in my validation rules only. So there may be some complex error message I want to show, or maybe complex validation I want to show. Okay, or I want to check something before creating a record. Okay, so that time I can write that piece of logic here in the before event. Okay, this is my logic in the before event, which I can execute in the before insert. That means before saving to database, I want to check, okay, this account satisfy these constraints or not, these conditions or not. If that kind of check you want to do, then we do in the before. So in a nutshell, I can say whenever I'm going for before, see the flow I made in two parts, before or after. Whenever you want to manipulate anything on same record, this is a point you remember always when you want to manipulate in same record, okay, then go for before event, okay. Or if anything you want to manipulate in other object or other record, then go for after event. So in keeping these 2 points, so if I want to check the account which I am going to create, if the same account I want to validate with some conditions, okay, before saving, then I'll go for before event. If I want, okay, whenever creating a account, I want to create another record in contact object. Whenever there is a other records or other objects came, nothing but let's see in more specific case another object or another record, then we can go for the after event. So for example, whenever you create a account, I want to update some other account records. It may be the same object, but I'm going to manipulate some another record, not the same record. Then we write the logic in the after event. Okay. So see, this insert again we can break as two part, before insert and after insert. Same way we can do for before update, after update, and before delete, after delete. Correct? So these all things we are manipulating. Clear? So now if I summarize everything, Apex nothing but trigger nothing but it's a piece of code which invoked for any kind of DML operations, and each operations we divide in two parts: before event and after event. So nothing but like before insert, after insert. So always remember in context what happened. We can say there are two types of trigger we have. Okay, one we call, sometimes I do the type of mistake. Two types of trigger. Okay, one we call before trigger, one we call after trigger. So I'm talking everything theoretically now. Then I will show you syntax, what is the syntax and how to write it. Okay, before trigger and after trigger. So now when I say before trigger, again before insert, after insert, the before insert, before update, everything comes. Okay. Now, so whenever I want to write a trigger, how I will write and what is the syntax for that. Okay. So now we should know how can write a trigger. Like see, we know how to write a class or how to write a piece of code. Same way, how can we write trigger? What is the syntax for this? So whenever you want to write a trigger, always the trigger will start with a keyword called trigger. Like my class starts with keyword called class, correct? So I can write a class like this: public class name, correct? So now I can write anything inside this the logic. So same way, when you write a trigger, you write trigger, then what is my trigger name? Okay. And always see when I explain this example, I say when account insert happening. Okay. When there is a DML operation happening on an object. So whenever I'm writing trigger, that trigger will be bound to a object only. So trigger name, then this trigger writing on which object? I'm writing on object. So you can specify the object name. So what is the object for this? Okay. Then the logic what I'll write. See, I may have many logics, correct? So what logic I want to write inside this, I will have the logics. The logic what I want to execute, this logic you want to execute on what time? During before insert or after insert, or before you update or after update. So that event should specify here. So we can say all the trigger events we can specify whatever you need. So for example, I want to write a trigger which will be work on account. Okay, let's see account trigger on account object. Okay, and this is I want to execute exactly only on before insert. So simply I can write before insert. Okay. So if the same trigger need to be executed in after insert, so see you can write after insert. Okay, see if I want some logic to execute during update also, I can write before update. So I mean here, so you can write any number of events here. Nothing but before insert, after insert, before update, after update. So all the events you can write with comma separated. Okay. So that kind of thing we can do here. So let's see, I'm just writing everything here. So you will understand it. Okay. So now let's, during delete, I want to do something. So see, before delete, okay. Then after delete. Okay. So now there is some operation side set on delete. So if you do upsert and merge, it's handled by insert update and delete update. Then we come to on delete. So when I'm going to do on delete, it's nothing but deleted from my database. So it's in recycle bin, I'm taking it. So before on delete, I cannot do anything because it's not in my database now. Okay. So once you do on delete, then my record coming to database. Nothing but during on delete only I have, after on delete, you can execute some kind of logic. You can execute the trigger code. You, if you want to execute the trigger code on after, before on delete, it's not possible because that is not in my database. Till the time I don't perform any DML, any operation in database, this trigger is not going to fire. Okay. So these are the combinations of events we can use. You can use any one, or you can use all of these at a time also, as you like. Okay. So
So,
now,
Devashish, one question on undelete. So, if the record has been removed from a recycle bin as well, because I believe it remains there for a certain period of time, and
correct.
after that, data goes from the recycle bin as well. So, can we also undelete those records which are no longer available in
No,
recycle
no,
bin?
no. You cannot you cannot undelete if it is not available. If it's available, then you can undelete. Nothing but if you delete a file and it's going to recycle bin in the system only. See, if you come to
Mhm.
recycle bin, till the time it is here, then I can undelete it. If it's not there, I cannot do that operations.
So
Okay.
that means if
So
any
see,
record
there
that has been deleted 2 months ago, it cannot be undeleted, right?
it cannot be.
From the
But
recycle.
see, there are some features you have. You can do it. You can contact to Salesforce support team. Okay, so they will charge some amount of money. Okay, to roll back that records which are deleted. If it's like sometimes what happen, there are some business
Okay.
records which may be deleted, and you want to roll back that. You can communicate to Salesforce team, and they can do from their backend, who is charging some money for that. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Perfect. So let's see. I want to write the trigger in the system. I'll see how to write. So it's quite easy. Go to, I'll show different ways how to write the trigger. I want to set up on which object I want to write. I want to write the trigger on the account object. If you go to account, I just search here. See, there is something called trigger account. Under the first standard objects, you can see under that object name here. You can go and write the trigger here. Okay. So see, I just click new. This is the complete syntax will be populated here. Trigger, then I can specify my trigger name. Let's consider I just mention account trigger. See, whenever you write a good program, always remember give a proper naming convention. So see, if I wrote a trigger, I went after a few days, you come and see, you can see and understand. Okay. Or if you give a class, somebody can recognize the logic from their class name. Always do that. Then what event you want here? Okay, if you want only before insert, see, I'm writing only before insert, I can save it. Okay. So if you want this trigger to execute in all the events, so you can write all the stuffs also. See, I'm just copying from this, and I'm just keeping this. So I'm just writing all the events here. Okay, everything is allowed. I edit it, I can do it here. Okay, this is one way. Okay, so if you want to write this from developer console, how you do? See, I can just do quick save, or you can do save also. See, if you want from developer console, nothing to worry. See, you can go to this file, new, new trigger. So always trigger will be associated to object. To which object you want? Let's see. I want to write from the object called contact. For example, if you go here, I just clear the contact. You can give the trigger name. I just give the trigger name as contact trigger. Okay. Now I click on submit. So now see, there is one trigger created. Okay. See, this trigger also you can see here. If you create contact, you just go here, you see this trigger also there. Okay, these are ways we can, where we can write the triggers. Also, if you use any other tools, let's see, this is a very good tool we use. Okay, ASIDIO, nothing but A Salesforce ID. Okay, so if you let me log into this, as I log into my developer edition, I just log in there. So here also you can write a trigger. Let me to open this. See, if I want to write a new trigger, see, I came here, there is a new trigger. Okay, simply trigger on which object and what is the name. I want trigger as, let's see, I will tell opportunity trigger. Okay, on which object, on opportunity. Okay, when I want to execute on before insert. Okay, I can save that way also. So if you save here also, if you see, if I come to opportunity, see, if I come to here, if I check this trigger, so now we have opportunity trigger also. Now this is the standard object. If I want to write in position object, let's see, I went to my custom object. Okay, this is the plugin we used. If you don't have plugin, don't worry, you just go to object like this. Under create object, you can go to this position, go to that object name. Under that, in a related list, you can see trigger. Okay, you want to write, you can write here also. Okay, so what is the name you want to give? Same way, you can write trigger also here. So for standard objects, you can directly get under that object name only. Okay, so for any other objects, custom objects, you go to the object and see the related list and create a trigger. Okay, so when you're creating trigger, what do you have to give? You have to give trigger name on which object and then on what event you want to execute the logic. Got my point till now? Or any question?
Yes.
Perfect. And the code what we'll write inside this. The complete logic what we want to do, we'll write this. Okay. So now if you see this example, okay, we understood, okay, we'll write the logic. Let's see, I wrote the logic to create another contact. Okay, so now when I'm creating another contact, so this logic I don't want to execute whenever you delete a account. Okay, or I don't want to execute whenever you update it. I want to execute only during the insert. Okay, as I'm doing to create another object record, that means I'm going to manipulate with after event as I explained to you. Okay, manipulating some another object, then go for after event. In this example, I'll go to my after event. Correct? So now that means this piece of logic I want to execute only during my after event. Nothing but I can say if after event fired, then execute it. Correct? That kind of thing. Otherwise, don't execute this piece of logic. So how I can find out this type of records? Any idea? So till now, any confusion? Tell me. Then I'll come to this part. No confusion, correct?
No.
Okay. So now when I'm saying this, so how can I check these kind of things? And when I'm going to create another contact, so I may take some information or some data from my current account which I'm inserting. Nothing but if you see this, I'm going to insert this account. Okay. So the moment I'm going to create this contact, I may pick some data from this record, and that record data I can keep on my contact object. Okay, that means how can I access the record data from this object, the record which I'm going to save? How can I get data from there? Okay, so what are the things available from Salesforce to use for this? To understand that, we should know what is context variable. Okay, we have some trigger context variable. Let me more specific. Trigger context variable. Okay, so we can use this trigger context variable. Okay, which will help us to manipulate data to understand on which event I am firing all the stuffs. Okay. So whenever I'm talking trigger context variable, we have many trigger context variable given by Salesforce. Okay. So what are the variables we have? So let's see. We are doing different.
I have a question.
Yes, tell me.
So is the insert before or all those things are case sensitive?
No. whenever writing Apex, it's nothing case sensitive. You can write
Okay.
insert, you can write all caps, or you can write the one caps, one small, like this. How you want, you can write. You can write also like this, no worries. If you want to
Okay.
all caps, you can write. It's not case sensitive at all. Okay,
Okay, got
not
it.
like Java, JavaScript, nothing like that. Okay.
Okay.
So see, for example, I want to check the trigger when you're firing. So is this firing due to insert or due to update or due to delete? If you want to check that kind of thing, in the trigger context variable, we have some variable already predefined by Salesforce to understand that. What is that? One we call is insert. So if all these variables return me boolean value, it will return me a boolean value to understand this return, sorry, this trigger executing in insert event or not. Okay, so nothing but it will return true or false. Okay, if I'm inserting a record, that time this is insert going to be true. If I'm updating a record, this is insert going to be false. Okay, same way I have something called is update, I have something called is delete. Okay, I have something called is on delete. So see, all operation what I'm controlling, all these records, all this I can check from here. Okay, so it return true or false depending on what DML operations firing on the record right now, which record executing the trigger. Okay, this is one part. So now what going to happen here? I want to check my trigger executing on before or on after. See, based on that I divided. It's before event or after event. So my tree right now I'm in before of event or in my after event. How to know? To know that we have context variable, two variables you can check. One we call is before, one we call is after. Okay, that context variable you can check. This is also again returning me true or false, depending on which context we are right now in trigger. So are we executing before event or are we executing after event? Okay, so these are context variable we have to use. Now see, I said whenever I'm going to create a contact, I need to access some record from this. Okay, so to get that, we have something called new. Okay, new context variable. I'll write all the context variables and I'll explain one by one what it is. And we have old, we have new map, we have old map. Okay, these context variable contain the record. So what is new? The new record which I'm trying to insert. The content what I have here. Nothing but if you go to this account, let me open it. Let me open it account. See, when I create this new, what information I'm just entering here, I'm going to save. Okay. So everything, whatever I'm writing here. Okay. So all these things, when I click save, all this data will be saved as a collection elements list. So see, I may have one record, or I can insert many records in a single transactions, maybe in a list of collection elements, or maybe by using some data loader. So that moment what happened here, the all the records is going to be in a collection. It may be one record or many records. That nothing but my new. New is a context variable which is going to contain all the new records which are going to manipulate in database. Okay, so this new is nothing but going to return me list of new records. Okay, so the record which I'm trying to save to database, that will contain in new. It's nothing but a list of record. You remember the collection? Now see how my collection coming to use here. I'm saying this new contains my list of records. Okay, so when this new variable will available for us, we may not get always all these context variables. We'll see when new is available, when old is available. Okay, whenever creating a new record, that time I may not have old record. Old nothing but the old copy of that. Let me check. So let's see, I'm just going to modify some account. Okay, so I am in this Burlington textile account. So now I have industrial apparel. Now what I'm doing, I'm just going to update it. I edit it. I just change industry to let's see environmental. Okay, so this is my new record what I'm going to save with a new value. Then what is my old record for this? This is my old record with old value. So whenever you update, that time I will have my old record and my new record. But when you insert first time, you don't have right now what is the old record. So based on the context, based on the type of operation and based on the DML events, then we can see which context variable available at what moment. Okay. So when you say this new, okay, it contains the list of new records, and this is available only during insert and update. Let me write it, and on delete. Okay. So now whenever I'm deleting the record, so I'm just deleting from database. I'm not modifying any value there. Whatever in database, I just delete it. That time we don't have anything new. Okay. So only this new can be available on insert, update, and on delete. Okay. And that means this new record what I'm saying right now, so you do insert or update, it will available. And this new record nothing but you can modify in that context, you can modify anything on the record during this before event. Once your before event execution completed, then you are not allowed to modify anything. You can modify till this point if you want to change anything on the record. After this, it is read only. You cannot modify the same record which is flow because we already saved it. We are waiting only to commit. So anything you want to modify the record, you can modify up to this place. So in that context, what I said, the new is available only during insert, update, and on delete. Okay. Then what is old? Old nothing but it will return us the old copy of record. Okay. As I explained in this two scenario, this is my existing copy in database and I'm modifying to this. What is I modifying? That is my new, and which one I have before, that is my old. Okay. So see, now I change industry to environmental, and before I have industry to apparel. So this complete record is nothing but my old record, and this complete record is my new record. So what happened here? This old returns me again a list of old version of record. Okay. Okay. So when this old is available, this old will be available during update time, because during insert I don't have. Okay, because I don't have data in database, so during insert it's not available. So when you update, that means I have one copy of the record in database, I'm modifying it. So that means the old available during update and delete. Okay, because when I'm deleting, I have record in database which I'm deleting, that is the old copy, and once you delete we have nothing. Okay, then what is new map? So new map nothing but same thing but with a ID. So if you see, you remember map. Map is a collection of key and value pair. So in this new map also collection of ID and record pair. Okay, here key is the ID and value is the same record. So this is what I new map contains whenever I'm updating this. Okay, this record. So this record I said in new it is just this record, but new map this record with their ID. See, this is record ID. This record ID will be in the key, and this is going to be as a value. So that time we will have the new map. New map is a collection of ID and my a subject records. And when it will available, it will available. So when I'm saying ID, nothing but once my record save in database, ID will come. This ID. Till the time we don't save, I don't have ID. See, this is, I'm trying to save, I don't have ID. But once I save, I have ID. So that means this will create always in the after time. Okay. So once you insert the record, I may have the new map. Okay. So if you want to update the record, so before update also you can access this new map because I have my ID, I have my record. So also after update I may have this one, but say before insert I don't have. Before insert we are trying to insert it, so database didn't issue one ID for this record. Okay, only after insert, before update, after update. Okay, so all the times when I have one specific ID. Okay, and once you on delete from the system, then I can access it, because once you on delete again it will be in my database, and I can get my record ID. So record ID and their records. Okay. So if you remember, see here I do insert, update, on delete. So the new records. So this update happens in before and after, and this on delete and insert will be in after insert and after on delete. Then this new map will be accessible. So when this old map accessible, same thing. It's a ID and record of the old version of the records, old records. Okay. So when it is going to be available, this is going to be available during update trigger and delete trigger. Okay. So that moment we can access this old map, nothing but before update, after update, before delete, after delete, all the time we will have this one. Okay, old map. Okay, so now we understood how to access the records. So now sometime let me explain one logic here. I wrote this trigger, okay, and I'm just writing one specific class here. Okay, let's see, my account logic is one class. Okay, and I wrote all the logics inside this class. Okay, now I'm just going to invoke this class from here. Okay, and also this class being used in some page, maybe in some other other places. Okay, so now I want in this logic, I want to check, is this logic invoked from a trigger or not. If it is not invoked from a trigger, then I may do some other activity. If it's invoked from a trigger, then I want to do some other activity. Then how I'll understand this class is being invoked from a trigger or not. So that moment we can see if my trigger is executing or not. There is one context variable which we call is executing. Okay, which will return me true or false depending on the current code executing from a trigger or not. Okay, my code can be invoked from a trigger, can be invoked from a web service or email service, or maybe Visual Force page, or maybe my anonymous window. So I want to check this piece of code being invoked from a trigger or not. That time we can use is executing. Okay. So now on this trigger, right now in this page, I'm just going to manipulate one record. So I can contain the records in a list, collection of records, and I can insert. So if you remember, we're going to insert 10 accounts, 10 contacts. So when I write a trigger and I'm inserting 10 accounts, so my trigger will execute. So I want to see how many records are executing in a trigger. So if you want that kind of thing, we have something called size. We can use size. Okay, we can use all the stuffs. Okay, so now, so to use this, always remember if I want to check trigger inserting not, I will use is insert. But always remember you just write the syntax like this: trigger dot is insert or not is this way. Okay, trigger dot is update or not, that way. Okay, when I do this practically with the example, you will understand what is happening. Till now, any confusion or question for me?
So on new map, you have said that we can use it on after insert, before
Mm-hmm.
update, but so it can't be used for before insert, right? Because ID has not been
Correct.
generated yet. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So now, see, this is the theoretical explanation of the triggers. Okay. Then what next we'll do? We'll write different kind of triggers. Okay. And we'll have a lot of consideration when writing trigger. What is the best practices? We'll do some hands-on practice for the triggers. Okay. So just I said the syntax and what are the background of the trigger to use. See, if I don't know this context variable and all those things, I cannot write. So then in the next session, we will write the trigger. We'll write around 5-6 triggers. Okay, so that you will be acquainted with this practice, how to do it. Okay. Then we'll discuss the best practices for it. This is a very, very common thing for a developer to use. We have to use always. All the org you go, you see a lot of triggers will be there, a lot of logic is there. So this is like my Salesforce classes started from here. Okay. Sri and Ashish, any confusion?
No.
Perfect.
I have a question. Uh,
Ask.
Sorry about the disturbance. The thing is, can we call the after insert from the before insert?
No, you see, when you do after insert, before insert, that time after insert is false. Okay. But you have a class which you want to use both in before insert and after insert, that you can do. Let's say this class, I want to use both in after insert and sorry, before insert. Then what we do, if I'm just writing a syntax for here, okay. If I write trigger dot is before, okay, and trigger dot each after. So you want to execute both in before and after, then you can write this. Okay, I can invoke account logic invoke, you can do here. This logic can be used in both time, but we have to consideration what are parameter we are passing. See, in before and insert and after insert, in the new and old map we have difference, correct? So if you want to pass the old map in the both the time, then before insert I don't have old map, it may fail. So when you do that, you have to consider which parameter to pass if you're passing any parameters. Okay, you can invoke the logic in the both events, but with taking care of the logics. Okay,
Okay.
perfect. So we'll do a lot of hands-on for this trigger. Okay, it's the core part of Salesforce. Okay, don't worry for it, and go through this configuration like what are context variables. If you can remember it, it's very good to remember. Okay, always you have to play around with this and see this trigger syntax, everything. And in the next session, we'll write only the code, trigger code. We'll write a small trigger, then the best practices will make the complete structure. Okay, then we'll meet in the next session. Thank you so much. And
Thank you.